Hello, and welcome to Art Hops. I'm your host, Amy Kohler Anderson, and this is the show where we combine creative individuals with regionally brewed creations. Today's guest is Tiffany Clark.
Hello.
Tiffany, cheers. And we are pairing her with a, what is this beer from Toxic?
It's the Tonic. It's their stout, their staple stout.
Their staple stout. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
So, Tiffany, I invited you here to be a part of the very first show for several reasons. You know, I, of course, adore you, and I think that your work is really unique. I think after running the Rosewood Gallery for 9 years, I've encountered a lot of artwork, and I've never seen anything quite as lovely and unique as yours. So I wanted to have you on the show, not only to talk about your work specifically, but also to talk about your experiences, because I think one of the reasons your artwork is so unique is because you're pulling from these very, in some cases, unusual circumstances, but really powerful ones, and I think it shows in your imagery. But we'll get to that a bit later.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'm honored.
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, because we've titled this show Creativity and Healing, because your work has a lot to do with healing from addiction and healing from the grief of loved lost ones. So, but we'll touch on that, like I said, a little bit later. Right now, I just wanted to have you talk a little bit about your techniques and your process and how you get the images that you do.
Well, I have always been a 2D artist, but it has taken me a while to find my way. And I've always been a sketchbook artist, but been afraid to show those. Those always seem like unfinished works to me, something you didn't share at a show or anything. That would just be silly, but they had these confident lines or stories or illustrative parts that artists I really admired, always liked when I showed them, and that I liked in other works. So I tried to find a way to combine that.
Yeah.
As well as I've taught too many like preschool classes, and so I thought, what do I have and what do I know? So I had a whole bunch of paper laying around and a whole bunch of sketches, and just found a way to kind of look at it in a painterly style. And I use the sketches and trace them and kind of make a template with that. And I cut out different tones and textures of paper depending on what it is to create that kind of depth, and then I do the sketchy style over top of it, so you have kind of two chances to get that original sketch in there. I guess in some ways.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, you'll have this work on display at the Rosewood Gallery in June, so you're working towards that show right now.
Yes, very, very much so.
Well, I thank you so much for taking a break from that to join us here for this. And you've brought an example of, this is going to be at the show in June? And just to give a little bit of information, we'll have a bit at the end too, but the show is called Bonding. It's going to be at the Rosewood Gallery in Kettering, and it runs June 29th through July 24th. The reception will be June 28th from 2 to 4, and it is open to the public, so anyone can come and meet you and see your work in person. Well, tell us a little bit about that show, because it's a new direction for you.
Yeah, I wanted to do something with the style that everyone had kind of been connecting with and that I was pleased with, but I really use this style as a therapy, and the images I had been venturing down I still like, but you know, you always want to tell more of your story or find new ways to tell your story. So I had read this article about this book called Chasing the Scream, and it was about addiction. This author was studying different addiction in his family and different types of addiction, and he was looking at how we blame the drugs itself, like those chemicals are bad, and once you touch those chemicals once it's evil, and it's not humans are awesome, and it's these bad chemicals. And so he was looking at different studies. One that he looked at was originally when we tested drugs, and something they showed I think in the 80s, like the anti-drug war, was these rats, and if you put a thing of water and a thing of, I think it was like cocaine or something, in this empty cage, these rats, of course, go to the cocaine, and it shows like cocaine is evil once you have it once. But he thought, wow, if these were humans, what sad humans they would be. Right. They have nothing else. They have like no love, no nothing to play with, no. So he made this rat utopia with like all these awesome things rat could do on a rat Ferris wheel, and rat creative things, and rat love, and only one or two of what seemed like lonely, or rats that declined something else or had trouble socializing went to those drugs, and the other ones would tried it once and hated it and never went back again. So it's kind of, it's a way to discuss the things that we might be chemically, I don't know if I would say lacking in us, but find ways to fulfill our needs.
Right.
So I'm trying
substitute
to
something that's missing in our lives. Yeah.
So hopefully I'm going to connect those things, be it through actions that we have that produce these chemicals positively in us, or actions that people don't think about that connect, like gambling. Gambling is an addiction, but you're not taking in any chemicals. Nicotine, when they introduced the nicotine patch in the 80s, like, this is the end of smoking, because what's wrong with smoking is nicotine. So when they get this patch, everyone will be saved.
Right.
But only 17% of people who use the patch do it, because it's really not about that. And it's not just about the habit. It seems to be, if we find more ways to fulfill ourselves, we don't need those substitutions.
So do you feel that that's what your art has done for you? It has filled that void as you were able to, you know, detox and pull yourself away from the addictive substance, that you were able to fill that void with your art experiences and with, you know, obviously with the loved ones around you and support system? I think
very much so. I think before I got into any opiates or anything, I was never interested in that at all, and I was working all the time. I was always doing something, making art or working on something creatively, and then something happened to where I didn't have time to work on that art and was busy in kind of my own fantasy land. And then when I didn't have the love of that art, I needed the love of something else at the same time. You know, I think what people need varies in human beings. We're all different. But I feel like the way that we're treating people now is through other drugs and through other chemicals that are substitutes, where we as people can take control of that. I mean, it can get to where it's awful and you don't think you could ever take control, and that's most likely when, and it took exercise and love and time, but the art, and like I said, it's very much therapy. I try to use it as my voice and as a way to give back, and even the process. I'm kind of OCD at times and kind of scatterbrained at times. So I use the cutting of the paper as moments to slow down and really take time, and I have a focus and a definite, and that's my very OCD. And then when I do the sketching of it, I try to use music that fits the mood, or something kind of fast. I like math rock or emo or art avant-garde stuff that can let my hand move quickly while I'm somewhere else. And it just seems to get all that out. Yeah, it's a very physical thing as well.
Yeah. So with this piece that you brought in today, I notice you know, you have a lot of scientific symbolism, and that's tying back to what you're saying with that
Yes. Book. So with the bonding too, of course, we always try to be somewhat kitschy. So it's not just about the bonding we would have with these drugs that maybe we could have with other things, like making art or people or loved ones instead, that we could tie in. But in all of the pieces, I'll try to, in some ways, incorporate the different chemical bonds that create these neurochemicals or the neurotransmitters that go off at these different times. Like oxytocin is the same thing that's released, which is this one, when you have an opiate. So that's also something that's released when a mother is breastfeeding.
Oh, interesting.
So there are these ties to also why maybe some drugs are harder to beat than others, or that the substitutes have to be greater, or maybe more of an understanding. So this one is an oxytocin. It's normally released in the brain, but it's called the mother's womb. It's the nickname for it. So I wanted it to be something where when I showed the example of the scientific version that may be elsewhere in the body, it's to show how great it is and strong. Like there could be a hole there to fill it and such.
That's interesting.
Yes.
So just to give a little bit of your history here, to see where, so talk a little bit where you've come from. You studied at Antioch College in Yellow Springs. You've been a coordinator for the sideshow at the Merc, which is a fabulous space. That was a really good sideshow.
That was fun.
You've been the co-director and co-director of the permanent collection at Stivers School for the Arts. You've also been on the board of the Dayton Dia de los Muertos. I'm better if I don't read it.
Me too, that's funny.
The parade and celebration. And in fact, I believe we do have a picture of some of the altars that you made. Was that last year?
Yes.
And those were extremely powerful. Could you tell us a little bit about that process and as much information as you're comfortable with sharing? Because I know it does involve the passing of some individuals who are very close to you.
Sure. Well, first of all, I found out about it the first year, but kind of too late, and I wanted to make sure to go. I wanted my daughter to be able to go. I didn't quite know how it worked, but I understood the symbolism in the holiday and wanted it as a way for therapy. So I had her bring artwork, and we were able to set a photo and some artwork out, and that was such beautiful therapy for her. And I'd missed the next year, and they contacted me about wanting to do a memorial for an artist that had passed, and we may decide to do that every year. But they wanted to take notice of artists or musicians in the community that people care about that had passed, and specifically the heroin addiction really was a big mover, because it's something that I think surprised the community when Jason Dryden passed away, and it's something that I think they wanted to put towards the forefront because it's happening more and more, and to kind of show the human side and understanding maybe afterwards. I was honored they asked me to. So one of the things with the altars is that it's supposed to be the day that the spirits can kind of come back, that the wall has thinned. So you have to make it for you, and you have to make it for them. You have to make it to bring things, smells that they would like, and gifts. I mean, it is an altar, but it's therapy for you too. So in Jason's altar, I half made it for him and me. At first I did a painting, and in the painting I put his ashes in it. He had told me and other friends that when he died he wanted to live forever in a beautiful painting, and it took me years and years to have the courage to think of something he would think is beautiful, because he had a style that just you couldn't pinpoint. But I tried to paint an animal he loved, he thought was his spirit animal. He had these curly whiskers, so something about the hard shell of the big rhino, but with these big horns that I think were similar to his mustache. He really enjoyed that animal. So I painted that abstractly with glazes similar to his pots, because he used to throw these great pots with these wonderful raccoon turquoisey colors to it. And then put his ashes in it so he would live forever, and a piece of artwork. So I held that up there, and I also recreated his house. His home was a place where he let people stay and live. Friends lived there, held band practice there, the studio was there. It was like everyone's home. In fact, it was all too often, and probably in not so fun times, that people thought it was their home and they would just walk in and were rather surprised. So it was a way for everyone to see that place again. He was making, before he passed, K-12 was doing those awesome airplanes. They were having people paint. They were putting about town.
Yeah, I believe there's still some on display in the Oregon district.
Yeah,
correct?
there's still a few around.
Yeah,
I see them moving around sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
there's one of mine. But Jason never got to finish his. He was going to do a Sleepy Bird one and had started making these gorgeous instruments out of wood. He was the sculpting teacher at Stivers at the time, so he had some tools that he could use to, I think he made the bass, the keyboards, a theremin, and a microphone, and he was going to put them on the edge and do these sculptures and do all of the Sleepy Birds out of wire or forks with these instruments like they were flying. Yeah. So I figured I might as well finish it for him. It's part of the therapy, right? It might not be this kind of artwork.
Kind of tying up the loose ends and bringing closure to aspects of your life that had good memories, but leaving them sort of open may leave room for bad memories perhaps, or for bad feelings. So I don't know.
Sure. I think I always get a little bit angry when I do those things, but I mostly wanted to share. I mean, he'd started those things. I had a theremin and a mic stand and a keyboard that no one would ever see. Yeah. What a freaking shame, you know? Yeah. So I couldn't finish them as well, but I did my best, and I recreated the studio in the basement, and he grew up in the basement, so I tried to put a room where he would have stayed with like Sleepy Bird posters everywhere. So there was that one with personal other goodies, of course, mementos, since it's an altar in it. And then one of the Sleepy Birds and one of my loves had a son pass away last year. Yeah. That was very soon after, just so soon after, that the altar was not, I don't want to say it wasn't made by me, and it wasn't really made by anyone. It was made by everyone who brought things. It's
a collection of photos, and I think I contributed a few items too, because that was a very, it obviously shocked everyone that knew the young man.
Yes.
But I think it was nice to have that moment to kind of bring everyone together to say goodbyes in a way. So.
Sure. To tie it together too, it's just, so the one for Nigel was very short notice, and it wasn't some glorious piece of artwork. You don't have to be someone who can make some grand sculpture last minute to do one of these things. One of the beautiful parts of that is that it came together so fast with people, but yet they all had a bit of therapy out of it, and in itself was a piece of artwork, and people added artwork.
So anyone that would like to contribute to this, because it's becoming an annual event in Dayton. It takes place at the Missing Piece Gallery by Stivers.
Yes, you are good.
And and anyone that wants to participate and make an altar for their loved ones are welcome to get in touch with Missing Piece, and it's Piece, P-E-A-C-E.
Yes.
And I'm sure they can get signed up for that.
And we'll have a meeting soon, but I know we'll be doing all kinds of fundraisers and maybe a competition for artwork as well as on. So you'll see up and coming things for us to advertise and get more people involved. But really anyone can be, and it's just, it's always hard for, I think, us humans to get over or be okay with death.
Right.
And so every little thing that you can grasp for to help you, whatever it may be, is a beautiful thing. And this is a way for the community to come together as a whole, and for whatever it is that you are feeling to shine as well. It's lovely.
Yeah, I think that is wonderful. Well, speaking of lovely, you have a lot of lovely projects in the work. You have a permanent installation at Toxic Brew, who is our beer pairing of this evening. Yes. Did you want to tell real quick a little bit about Toxic Brew Company, and because you are friends with the brewers, and you also show artwork there on a regular basis. So if people are not able to see your work at the Rosewood Gallery show, they can often catch you at Toxic.
Yes, they can, as long as I can fill the space fast enough, which is awfully nice of them. I originally knew the gentleman who is the manager there, and he introduced me to the brewmaster, who he may be upset for me saying, but I believe is a secret genius. He is a rocket scientist, but what I find is genius about him that not everyone does is he did it himself. I mean, while he was doing all of his rocket science, engineering, technical things, for a decade he was brewing in his house and going to little places, and it's what he loved and did on the side. And after a while he decided that it was more important for him to do what he loved than to make money. Yeah. And so he used his creativity, and he molds all the tap handles there. He made the fermenters and the brew house. He designed all that and had it shipped away. And yeah,
he's truly in the appropriate location then, Dayton being the city of inventors. He kind of invented his not only his equipment but his new reality, and created this amazing little brew pub in the middle of Oregon District.
Yes, and I find beauty in that, in the deciding that I may neglect a little financially to fulfill my heart and have fun. Life is short, and not necessarily do what you want, but do what fulfills you. Right. And so I really enjoy that spot. You can feel it there. You can see it they did all the wood and everything. It has this lovely energy to it. Yeah. They allowed me to do the light installation.
Which is fabulous, by the way.
Thank you.
It really contributes to space. In fact, you're transforming a bit of the city of Dayton. You've got a mural project that you're going to start here soon, I believe?
Yes. I'm hoping it will be on the corner of 3rd and Kiwi. Okay. Fingers crossed. There's a couple buildings we're looking at there, and it's for the Dayton Downtown Graffiti Task Force. I said that tongue twister quite nice.
Yes, you did.
And they're doing a couple large ones this year. One is for suicide victims, and the other one is for heroin overdose victims or families, heroin addict survivors, opiate survivors. It's so widespread throughout our community now that anything we can do to let people feel like they have a way to talk, or they're loved, or
they're not alone.
Yes. And a huge mural that maybe some people may not understand the depths of, but I feel like an addict or a loved one of an addict will see it and know it and feel it when they go by, is quite a wonderful experience they're going to let me have.
Great.
Yeah.
So you'll probably be posting updates on that once it gets rolling, because you have your Facebook page where you post your artwork.
Yes.
How can people find you online?
At Tiffany Allen Arts, and however you get to Facebook on there from that, and that's probably the most updated one. Isn't it awful? Computers hate me. They just break down. So that Facebook thing, they just make all too easy. Horrible.
And you're also on Instagram, right? Do you post
there is that Instagram thing now. Yeah. Huh? I'm so old. All the young people can laugh at me now.
Oh, no.
So you stay looking young, everyone, by chubby cheeks, not by actually. That is T. Allen Clark. So TALLYNCLARK.
Very good. Excellent. And is there, anything else that you want to talk about or let us know about as far as what you've got in the works, or any messages to, people out there that may be looking at you and saying, this person survived addiction, and how can I do it? Or I don't know, anything you want to fill us with?
I really just want people, part of my survival story is the addiction, and part of it is, and I don't know that you can ever overcome the loss of your better half or someone greater than you, but you can make change from it. It changes you, and you can learn to make it a beautiful thing. I was talking to someone the other day, and she said she's a cancer survivor, and she used to live in England, and she has the most beautiful outlook. And she was telling me about, in England, people would always complain about the rain, like how awful the rain is. And she thought, girl, you need rain to live. Rain is going to happen whether you want it to rain or not. We live in this beautiful city, so put on your jacket and get your umbrella and go out there. So as far as the overcoming loss, I feel like put on your raincoat and your umbrella and go out there, because it's going to happen either way, and it will help you appreciate that every moment. And as far as overcoming addiction, don't be quiet about it. Don't hide. You want to put on this mask and be someone else, but people that love you will always love you, and that's the only way that you'll get any better. The more that you hide in that mask of addiction and think of whatever that thing you're clinging is the only thing that loves you, the more you separate yourself from all of the things and people that will make you really feel love.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the most perfect and beautiful note to end on.
Thank you.
Tiffany, it's been such a pleasure. Cheers, and thank you again for being the first guest on Art Hops.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and cheers. Yeah.